The fate of the Pacific hung on three American aircraft carriers. They faced a crushing superior force, Japan's Kido Butai, the most powerful strike group ever assembled. But one man's controversial decision, made in the burning aftermath of the greatest naval battle in history, saved those ships and changed the course of World War II forever. The unseen threat. It is the dawn of June 4, 1942. Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher, aboard the carrier USS Yorktown, felt the weight of the entire nation. He knew the Japanese were coming. Thanks to the broken codes of magic, he had 4 hours' notice, but the enemy still outnumbered him 4 carriers to 3. The sky over the Pacific was a blinding expanse of blue, masking the lethal chess game about to unfold. Every man aboard held his breath, listening for the inevitable roar of approaching engines. The silence was the real terror. The race to strike first. Fletcher understood that carrier warfare was a deadly sprint: strike first or die. Despite strict orders to wait for Japanese confirmation, at 6:07 a.m., he launched his first wave toward the assumed enemy position. Meanwhile, the Japanese commander, Nagumo, was already preparing to rearm his planes for a second, massive strike against Midway Atoll itself. Nagumo's delay, coupled with the heroic scout pilots, gave the Americans the critical window they needed, but they would pay dearly for it. The price of sacrifice. The American torpedo bombers struck first. They were obsolete, slow, and flew straight into a storm of Zero fighters. The scene was horrifying. Torpedo Squadron 8, VT-8, launching from USS Hornet, saw 15 planes shot down in minutes, without scoring a single hit. The sacrifice of these young pilots, drawing the Japanese fighters down to sea level, felt futile in the moment. Yet, this relentless, doomed assault cleared the air, unknowingly setting the stage for the true turning point. The critical 5 minutes at 10:22 a.m., history pivoted. High above the chaos, SBD Dauntless dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown arrived simultaneously, almost by divine providence. They found the Japanese decks stacked with armed and fueled aircraft, ammunition strewn everywhere. The Japanese high command was still distracted by the low-flying torpedo planes. The pilots pushed their heavy planes into impossible dives, engines screaming, unleashing their 1,000-pound bombs. The inferno of Kido Butai. The Japanese fleet was instantly engulfed. Bombs ripped through the lightly armored flight decks of Akagi, Kaga, and Soryo, igniting aviation fuel and ordnance. The spectacle was apocalyptic. 3 colossal carriers, the pride of the Imperial Navy, became towering columns of smoke and fire within 6 minutes. The devastating surprise strike had neutralized 3/4 of Japan's core carrier strength. The men on the American ships cheered, but the battle was far from over. The retaliation. Admiral Nagumo had one card left: the Hiryu. This final carrier launched its furious counterstrike at 10:40 a.m. The target, USS Yorktown, Fletcher's flagship. The speed and determination of the Japanese pilots were terrifying. Yorktown, operating alone as the most forward carrier, took 3 direct bomb hits. The blast buckled the hull plates and killed the main boiler fires, instantly crippling the massive ship. The unrelenting blow miraculously, damage control teams under Captain Elliot Buckmaster managed to restore limited power within an hour. But the determined Japanese refused to yield. A second attack wave soon appeared, spotting the carrier, now moving slowly again, mistaking it for a second, fresh ship. At 1:20 p.m., 2 torpedoes slammed into Yorktown's port side, knocking out all remaining power and giving the great ship a death list. She was dead in the water. The transfer of command. With Yorktown listing 26 degrees and sinking, Admiral Fletcher had no choice. He ordered the ship abandoned, lowering himself onto the surface of the rolling ocean. Recognizing the extreme peril and unable to command effectively from a dying vessel, he made a pivotal decision. Operational control of the remaining 2 carriers, Enterprise and Hornet, was transferred to Rear Admiral Raymond Spruance aboard Enterprise. The midnight dilemma. As the Pacific sun began to set on the historic day, June 4th, Spruance faced an agonizing choice. He had 2 surviving, undamaged carriers. Intelligence suggested that Admiral Yamamoto still had battleships, cruisers, and potentially a fourth, though damaged, carrier, Hiryu*, which was later confirmed sunk. He knew the Japanese excelled at night fighting, a scenario where American planes were less effective, and their fleet doctrine was superior. The pullback order Fletcher, now aboard the cruiser USS Astoria, contacted Spruance. His overall strategic directive was clear: protect the remaining carriers at all costs. To avoid a catastrophic night engagement, which could cost the U.S. its last operational carriers, Spruance was ordered to retire eastward for the night. This was not a retreat of fear, but a calculated, cautious strategic maneuver. Losing those two ships would mean losing the Pacific War. A necessary caution. This decision to pull back, conserving his force rather than charging forward into the dark, was deeply unpopular with some aggressive staff officers. But Fletcher and Spruance prioritized the war effort over immediate tactical glory. They understood a critical, lesser-known reality: the American aircrews were utterly exhausted, having flown multiple, maximum effort sorties. They needed rest to fight the following day. Watching the ghosts as the task force steamed eastward, the men looked back across the darkening horizon. They could still see the flickering orange glow of the burning Japanese ships. These were the ghostly funeral pyres of the Kido Butai. The sight was a sobering reminder of the horrific violence they had survived and the immense loss suffered by both sides. The price of victory was measured in burning steel and sunken bodies. The price of victory 2 days later, on June 6, the abandoned Yorktown was finally lost, along with the destroyer USS Hammond, which was attempting a rescue and repair operation. The final tally was stark: 1 American carrier and 1 destroyer lost, but for Japanese carriers, a cruiser, and hundreds of irreplaceable veteran pilots destroyed. Fletcher's caution had ensured the survival of the American operational fleet. The architect of endurance Fletcher was later relieved of operational command, a quiet end for the man who commanded the fleet during the turning point of the war. His strategic decisions at Coral Sea and, critically, at Midway, were often overshadowed by the daring tactical prowess of Spruance and Halsey. But his decision to withdraw the carriers and endure the potential criticism was the ultimate act of command responsibility. The legacy of caution. Why did Fletcher pull back? To secure the future. By prioritizing the structural integrity of his fleet over the chance to sink a few more enemy cruisers, he ensured the United States could prosecute the war through 1943. Midway was won by unparalleled courage, but it was preserved by Frank Jack Fletcher's disciplined caution. He understood that in war, sometimes the hardest, most powerful choice is the one that says, "We live to fight tomorrow."